Today we're addressing a phrase you've likely heard or maybe even said yourself before. That's not my job. But in the world of nurse delegation, accountability is not isolated, it's shared. When something goes wrong, it's not just about identifying a single point of failure, it's about understanding how each person's actions or inaction contributed to the outcome. Whether you're a caregiver or a nurse delegator, this video will help you understand your specific responsibilities, what to do when mistakes happen, and how to build a culture focused on safety instead of blame. Healthcare is a high stakes environment where errors can and do happen. A medication is missed, a change in condition goes unreported, or an instruction is misunderstood. Often, the first reaction is to ask, whose fault is it? But in delegated care, we must shift from blame to responsibility. Under Washington state law, nurse delegation is a structured process defined by the Washington Administrative Code. These regulations require clear delegation from the nurse and consistent follow-through from the caregiver. The delegating nurse is accountable for assessing the client's condition, determining if it is stable and predictable, and providing clear, documented instructions to the caregiver. The WACs outline the nurse's responsibility to ensure the caregiver is competent to perform the task. Meanwhile, the caregiver is responsible for carrying out the delegated task exactly as trained and instructed. They must also report changes in the client's condition or any concerns about the task immediately. The WACs reinforce that caregivers are responsible for reporting changes, concerns, or errors promptly. In this way, both parties are essential to the safety and effectiveness of the care being provided. Let's talk about team dynamics. Delegated care is not a solo effort. Even when roles are clearly defined, the client's well-being relies on shared vigilance. Delegating nurses must ensure that caregivers feel supported and safe asking questions. At the same time, caregivers must understand that they are the frontline observers, often the first to notice subtle but important changes in a client's condition. When communication is open and proactive, everybody benefits, most of all, the client. Here's a scenario to consider. A caregiver decides to delay a client's insulin injection, assuming it's not a big deal. Unfortunately, that client later ends up in the emergency room with dangerously high blood sugar. Where was the breakdown? Perhaps the nurse didn't fully communicate the critical timing of insulin, or maybe the caregiver didn't understand the urgency. Either way, the lapse in care resulted in real harm. This illustrates why understanding why a task is important is just as crucial as knowing how to do it. Here's another example. A caregiver notices redness on a client's hip but doesn't report it, assuming that skin checks are the nurse's responsibility. Meanwhile, the nurse assumes that if something were wrong, the caregiver would say so. The result? A preventable pressure ulcer. The takeaway here is clear. Caregivers must report changes in condition, and nurses must act on those reports. Both are accountable. Delegated care is not just about completing tasks. It's about performing them safely, clearly, and as part of a team. When responsibilities are communicated transparently and everyone is committed to observation, reporting, and follow-through, we reduce errors, we improve outcomes, and we build mutual trust. Shared accountability creates a safety net that protects clients and strengthens the care plan. So next time you hear or think, "That's not my job," pause and ask yourself, what am I responsible for right now? Who else needs to know this? And how can I support safety, not just check off a task? Because in nurse delegation, accountability is not something that we pass along. It's something that we share for the good of the client and the integrity of the team. Thank you for watching. If you have a helpful scenario or suggestion, feel free to leave a comment. Just remember to respect patient confidentiality.